welcome. We are just about 2 minutes away from the start of the professional women's BOLDERBoulder 10K, which will also include the elite international competition, team competition that is. 10 minutes later, we'll have the start of the men's race. Race director Cliff Bosley and elite athlete coordinator Don Janicki have once again put together a truly international world-class field, and we are excited to bring you all the action. My name is Alan Culpepper. I'm joined by the legend himself, one of the only individuals that went to the Olympics and one of the only individuals that went to the Olympics and won 2 gold medals is Mr. Frank Shorter will be joining me. We're going to be bringing you all the action today, folks. We are just about 1 minute away from the start of the international women's professional race. 10 minutes later, we'll have the start of the professional men's race, and we are going to be bringing you all the action today. Frank, we have a shot here of the women at the start. Give me some of your thoughts as they're preparing for the start of this race.
Well, I think 2 Kenyan women are going to do very well here. Ivy Kibet and Grace Kahura, Stephanie Bruce from the United States, Aliphine Tuliamuk, who is a naturalized American citizen as well, and they're off. We've seen slightly downhill at this start. We've wondered how that's going to affect the early pace. Traditionally, the women tend to go out in a larger group than the men do. Of course, that means that last year they absolutely didn't. But the other point to talk about here is the weather, truly. The cloud cover is to their benefit, and the wind is really minimal. And so again, at this point in the race, they're just going along, trying to find their tempo and just get within themselves. And also, Alan, I'd like to welcome you. I like to feel that this is the start of a new tradition. Tim Cronin and I had done this race for so many years, and to give people here a little bit of a refresher on your qualifications, you've won the Olympic Trials Marathon, you've been on 2 Olympic teams, and I think we have an advantage here as we have 2 people who have actually performed at an international level for many years. So I think together we're going to do, as well as we possibly can. And also admit that we'd rather be out there, but we're okay here.
A part of me, yeah, there's a small part of me. Yeah. But I'm excited to be covering the race with you. We have 8 women's international teams. We'll just run down some of those teams for you. We have the Brazilian team, what makes up Latin America, Ethiopia, Japan, Kenya, Mexico, Pan-Africa, and the United States. Frank, maybe you could just touch on the unique aspect that this isn't just an individual competition. Back in 1998, the BOLDERBoulder organizers decided to introduce this international team challenge. So not only are these athletes running for their individual placing and trying to finish as high as they can, but they also have this 3-person team dynamic where each person counts for points. And frankly, most of the prize money, of which there's a lot in this race, second to only all the international marathons, they're running for individual prize money and team prize money. So each person is very important to that team score.
And I think what this team concept does, it produces most likely the deepest 10K field in the world, because most races will just invite a few people in the top and local people will fill in. But here you have runners from countries who would never get the chance. Brazil to send a team here. Cuba, we had 2 out of 3 be able to make it into the country, and they're going to have that experience here. We have a substitute on that team, which makes up a Latin American team. So we always have a little bit different twist on this race. The Japanese women to the right there of your screen that you see, many of them train here in Boulder. And so they come every year and live at altitude way up high, and then they come down into Boulder to train. And one of the favorites on the women's side, Grace Kahura, though she's Kenyan, she's a Boulder resident, and she trains here. So they reflect many international athletes who train here in Boulder. On the other hand, there are other places in the United States where people train, and that's reflected on the women's team. The Northern Arizona Elite in Flagstaff, Stephanie Bruce and Aliphine Tuliamuk, who are really 2 stalwarts on the American team, have come over from Flagstaff, and they're going to try to do it for the American women.
Yeah, this is one of those races where racing in Boulder at altitude at noontime, really, it's to your advantage to have trained at altitude. You just learn that sensation of effort when you're doing all of your training. So it will be no shock that one of the women that is most accustomed to racing at this altitude will fare the best. That's our Ethiopian women, 1, 2, and 3, right across the front. Maybe we could just touch on the Ethiopians. This race has really become theirs in terms of the team competition. They've finished no worse than 3rd place. Really, it's been a dominant effort over the years with Ethiopia. And they're showing this year that they are not going to take any prisoners once again. Running as a team, running around the corners. My feeling is the Ethiopian women are not as strong as they've been in the past, but they'll definitely be in here to really try to win. But I think what this indicates, all 3 out in front, means that the pace is really fairly pedestrian at this point. Yeah, just for a bit of context, a couple of years ago, race director Cliff Bosley decided to alter the start for the elite race to really take advantage of the wonderful crowd and to have it race. The race actually begins just on Folsom Street, right at the shadow of the stadium. So they get the benefit of running against the traffic, essentially, and really enjoying that crowd at the start. The first mile has traditionally been slower because there are more turns, and then they'll pick up the traditional course right around the 2K mark. And they'll start up a very slight hill up Folsom, and that's really where we start to get an indication of how it's going to spread out. But you can see with runners all across the screen like this, it does mean that the pace is slow. It's easy. But you also have to be very careful at altitude, because once you go a little bit too hard and go into oxygen debt where you're not getting enough oxygen, developing lactic acid, it's much more difficult to come out of that state at altitude. So you have to be much more careful. We have our first mile splits here. The women, this lead pack, all crossed right around 5:16 or 5:17. So they're all right together, obviously, and a solid pace. No one's overly exerted at this point. So I would not imagine until once we crest that first little hill that we'll start to see this main pack break up into 2 smaller packs. A little bit of a surge there. You can see as they spread out. But the athletes behind, the women behind are actually, and the Japanese are very good at this, of drafting. Yeah, speaking of the Japanese runner F10 there with the quite unique running form with her arm carry, she's a really up-and-coming star in Japan. She opened with a 2:21 marathon as her debut, which is quite unbelievable, the 4th fastest ever by a Japanese woman. So she's more of the marathon style runner, but dropping down to the 10K, which at altitude is pace-wise is not quite that different. Obviously, it's quite a bit shorter, but the actual pace per mile is not that different from what she would run in a marathon. And they're surging a little bit. They're surging and testing and just seeing who wants to stay with it. There's 2 kilometers. Just about a mile and a quarter. And it's already started to break up, and the Ethiopians are surprising. They really are, and U.S. is right in there. This is that slight uphill that we're going to see as they're making this right-hand turn back onto Folsom Street, right there near Mapleton. It's actually at Pine, but they're about to cross Mapleton. As they bend this next turn, you'll see that they'll go up a slight incline, and that's what we'll be curious to see, just at the first little test, to see who goes with the main pack. But Ethiopian women and American women and Japanese women. So top 3 teams so far. Right there on the side of your picture is F2, the USA bib. That's Stephanie Bruce. She trains down in Flagstaff, which is actually higher altitude than Boulder. She's coming off a really impressive 25K win just a few weeks ago, so she's clearly in very good fitness. She's a mother of 2, so she was excited yesterday that she got to go back to her hotel room and not have to tend to any children. She was excited just to relax a little bit. And her training partner was 2nd in this race last year, Aliphine Tuliamuk. And so they're ready. They really have talked about the course. They know it. They've been running. I actually saw them running up this exact hill yesterday as I was driving down. So they know the course. And once again, the Ethiopians surprising me a little bit. Just pressing the lead, just pressing and pressing. Yeah, Aliphine ran a really impressive race last year where she just continued to hang tough all the way and came up just short in finishing 2nd place, but helped carry the USA team to a 2nd place finish last year. She was very candid that she's coming in fit and that she's not afraid, and that she said it would be nothing better than to come into this stadium as the first female, and she said it would be the highlight of her running career.
They've topped out that first hill on heading north on Folsom. They're just about, I think, to Iris. They'll cross this and they'll head north, due north, through the 2-mile mark, and then just beyond that make a left-hand turn and start wandering through the neighborhoods of North Boulder.
Right, the first and third mile really have the most turns, which to these athletes that are running at this type of pace, that makes a big difference. It definitely slows down. It definitely changes the tactics when you go through a 90-degree turn. So we'll continue to watch as they move and make that left-hand turn onto Hawthorne, how that begins to shake it up even more.
Now what I'm looking for here is the Ethiopian runners, whether they pass the lead and share the lead with one coming out. And you can tell when you want someone to go by you and you're in the lead, you just pull a little bit, say to your left or right, and the signal is usually to the left, and the signal is, okay, somebody come by and take the lead.
F19, who's brenting the front lead right there, is Rahima Chota from Ethiopia, now taking over by F21. All right, we are just about a minute away also from the men's start, which is same exact location just out here on Folsom Street. 10 international teams on the men's side. We have some really standout individuals that are coming back from last year. Gabriel Gay, who finished second last year, was first in 2017. He's coming off a big win a few weeks ago at Bloomsday. I think he's the man to watch.
But right behind him at Bloomsday, 1 second behind, Benard Ngeno and then Jared Ward from the U.S., running very, very well recently. This is going to be quite a race, and Bahrain seems to be the strongest contender for the team title.
It does. Bahrain has 2 of their top 3 back from last year, and they finished second last year, so they're a tough team for sure. So I'm expecting that Kenya, USA, Bahrain will be all up in there, and of course Ethiopia. You can't rule them out at any given year. Jared is off to the side there with the teal singlet. He just came off a PR at the Boston Marathon where he ran under 2 hours and 10 minutes. You know, Jared, he was pretty open yesterday when we asked, how do you feel this is going to unfold for you? And he said, you know what, I'm not sure, but I'll see. I'm going to plan to run a smart race, maybe not quite up in the front the entire way, but I'm going to run a smart race and just see how it unfolds. He's obviously carrying all that strength of the marathon training. But then you drop down and you start running 440 miles. It feels quite a bit more intense. And we've yet to see an American man make that turn from Boston to running the BOLDERBoulder very effectively. You would think it would be enough time, but it is a tough thing coming off of a full marathon race not 6 weeks ago to jump into a hard 10K effort. So we'll see how Jared fares, but he's one of America's best and brightest. He's 30 years old. Father of 4, he's a professor at BYU. He's looking to make the next Olympic team. He already made the Rio and finished 6th place in the marathon. And we'll see how he fares at the Olympic trials next year.
And right now, they're taking off very, very hard.
And those are our 2 favorites right from the get-go. Benard Ngeno is M15 there in the bright green and blue singlet. And from Tanzania, that's Gabriel Gay, who finished second here a year ago and won this race in 2017. So he's familiar with this event, and these 2 made it very clear that they were going to be here to race hard.
I think they're trying to intimidate one another there. They're saying, okay, here, let's see what you got. Oh, all right, let's see what you got. It's as if they just finished 2 weeks ago in Bloomsday and then just have decided to keep running. But they've shown they're in great shape. They're in great shape. And they're altitude trained, they know what they're doing, and this could be a 2-man race right from the start.
We haven't seen this in a while, Frank, where we've seen 2 individuals just go from the start. It's been much more tactical, where it's really played out in the second half of the race. But we'll see how it works out today. We're back on the women's race with this lead pack, which is still looks like it's about 6 strong or 7 or 8 strong there, as we see the rest of the runners. We've lost a few that have tailed off the back. It looks like Stephanie Bruce has dropped back. And one of the Japanese runner, Ando, has also dropped back. But we have 7. We'll give you their 2-mile split here in just a minute.
Yeah, they're just past 2 miles. They've made a left-hand turn off of Folsom, and now they're starting to wander through those neighborhoods. And here we go. I think this is just Two people looking at each other, and you do, as you know, Alan, when you're running along, you can sense someone's effort running beside you, and you test a little bit, and it may look like they're running a steady pace, but they're not. Someone's coming up on them from behind, but they're not running a steady pace. They're just surging and backing off a little, and surging and backing off a little. But they're running right up on the press truck and the camera truck. That's how fast they're going.
That looks like one of our Bahrain athletes who we mentioned before, who is coming off a top finish from last year, top 5 finish. So he obviously is trying to bridge that gap early. I think Ngeno is just trying to test it. He was the one who finished runner-up by 1 second a few weeks ago in Bloomsday, and I think he's just trying to make a little bit of a statement. He's the one that kept looking over as they were running down Folsom.
That's our first major surge here. He is really making an effort to get a gap. And I'm really surprised that the true race has started so early on. And they're not testing the other people. They're running against each other right now. It's just two men paying attention to each other, and that's it. One surge, one recovery. One surge, one recovery.
The women went through the 2-mile split in 5:21. So there was obviously that group of 7 or 8. It looks like they're still just measuring each other. I don't see anyone really pushing any surges at this point. That's Tuliamuk, who's moving off to the right-hand side. They're coming down 19th, so they're actually coming up on the 3-mile mark very soon. One important dynamic, Frank, to mention is the team element that, and this is where maybe Kenya has struggled in years past, where they've had 2 runners run very, very well, but then the 3rd runner has struggled, and it basically destroys your team competition points. You have to have 3 finish, and that's where this race is different. If you're back in 12th, 13th, 14th place, you still have to keep fighting because your teammates who are ahead of you are going to be depending on you for those critical points for that 3rd place runner.
And they know. All the athletes know. And in a way, it's like a cross-country race where you're really under pressure to really perform for your teammates.
Well, we got the first mile split here for the men, and they are certainly not messing around. They went through the mile in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. That's well below any year we've seen in the last decade, maybe dating back to 1995, where we had ideal premier conditions, and the records were both set for men and women that year. So we shall see as we come up to the 2-mile mark if they're able to hold that or if they begin to settle in. But regardless, that's a very strong start for the men.
And the Ethiopians coming back to the front on the downhills, surging. So they were just resting for a while, letting some of the other runners who are now dropping off the back. I think the last of the Japanese women in that front pack is back. So we have 3 Ethiopians, I think 2 Kenyans,
and an USA, correct.
Oh, this is a real surge. This, now it's just a question of, did he go too fast, too soon?
That is the question. With a 4:20 opening mile, that's impressive running at this altitude. So we'll just have to see how Benard Ngeno hangs on. That's a shot of Gabriel Gay from Tanzania in 2nd place, but that's a significant margin at this point in the race. That's that small, slight hill on Folsom heading north that we talked about that generally starts to showcase how you're feeling. You can see the cadence is slowing there as they're going up this hill. And it looks like Gabriel Gay might be getting swallowed up by the rest of that pack.
And Ngeno that's the hill on Folsom, that first hill test. And he's going up nice, very easily, up at the top, not even looking around. He's just running at a certain effort, just seeing where it gets him. And what he most likely will do is run about another half mile past the 2-mile point when he makes that left-hand turn off of Folsom into North Boulder. He'll take a quick look to his left and just see. Well, now the dynamic of the race has changed. He's running from the front. It's just a question of at what point is he running scared, and at what point does he really, really feel that he's got enough of a lead.
Some preliminary women's team results as they went past the 3-mile marker. Obviously, Ethiopia with 3 women in that top 5. They're in the lead with 10 points. Second place is USA. And then our third place is Kenya. So this can change dramatically over the last 2 miles, but as it stands now, Ethiopia and USA are our top 2 teams, which would mimic the results from last year. That lead pack has now been whittled down to 5 runners. Looks like 3 Ethiopians, 1 Kenyan, and Tuliamuk from the United States, who's still hanging tough right in the middle of that pack.
And don't forget, she finished second last year, and she's, I think, in much better shape this year, and mentally she's in great shape. At the athletes' press conference yesterday, she's confident. She's very confident. And she's running very smart. If you're going to draft in a pack of 4, you want to be right where she is, because she's getting total drafting effect here, and she's saving energy. And able to relax. You can kind of relax and fall into the rhythm of the person ahead of you. So she's running a very smart race at this point.
Yeah, the Ethiopian women are curious because on paper they have some outstanding times and personal bests, but some of them have dated back almost 10 or 12 years where, you know, world-class times in the 5K and 10K, but maybe not so much in the most recent years. And I think what's transitioned is more to pure road racing, where they're not running on the track as much and maybe not testing their overall fitness, but just racing on the roads. And they're proving today that they're clearly the class of the field, regardless of age or how long ago they were running at their best.
And very surprising. I think we were lulled into looking at those great times from 2011, 12, 13, 14, and nothing more recent for the Ethiopian women, and I think we were a little fooled.
They're making their way past Ideal Market, and they'll be moving towards the 4-mile marker, which then will indicate the highest point on the course, that hill that everyone's familiar with that just ran the race, right by Casey Middle School.
Once you get to the top of that 4-mile hill, you have this feeling truly that you're heading home, you're heading for the barn. It's a ways, but you know it's mostly downhill.
This is Benard Ngeno again, still holding that lead. We'll get you a sense of how much that lead actually is.
He's a bit past 2 miles. He's entered the North Boulder neighborhood. And here he has an advantage because look behind, you don't see anyone. And he is almost at the point of being what I call out of sight, out of mind. And particularly with these sharp turns. See, the runners from behind are going to come around that turn. He's going to be gone.
Yeah, exactly.
They can't see him. And part of running from behind when you're trying to run someone down is that you can sense that you're gaining and it relaxes you and you can feel pulled towards that person. But none of the runners behind are getting that benefit right now. They're not getting that benefit, and they don't know if Ngeno is coming back to them.
There's also that element when you're in that pack where you can it can go one of 2 ways. You can use the pack to work together, to push, to bridge the gap, or you sometimes can settle in and get a little complacent, and it seems like the men are being a bit more complacent in that pack. And here we go with Aliphine making the break down that hill, coming past the 4-mile mark, where last year she got broken by just a little bit, and I think she's learning from last year to say, I'm going to not make that mistake again this year.
And she's going for it. This is the break. This is the surge in the race. This is the test. She's going to hold this for as long as she feels that she can slow down just a little bit and recover. And she seems to have gotten away almost. And so what she has to do now is just decide, okay, do I back off just a little bit? That was the test, and maybe I'll try again. So I think that was much more of a test than a surge to see.
Now they're turning onto Pearl Street, and that women's pack went from 5 to 3 very quickly. And you're right, I think she's testing the others, but what she doesn't want to do is press too hard. And
because she still has about 2 miles to go.
Yeah,
7 kilometers
exactly.
Is a little bit less, 3 kilometers, a little bit less than 2 miles, almost 2 miles even with a 6.2 miles. So, but she should feel very good about this because she knows it's only 3, and she knows at this point she's not slowing down.
They were right at 5:17 per mile at that 4-mile marker. It'll be curious to see their 5-mile split because I guarantee it'll be their fastest of the day.
Here we go. It's just a constant effort. You're just pressing right at what you feel is your limit, and what you're finding out is how the others respond to it. And she's slowing down a little. She's slowing down just a little bit, but she's comfortable enough to stay in the lead. Now they've slowed down. Now they're recovering. And it's a question of who recovers most quickly and decides she wants to surge again. And that's how you win the races at this point. You feel well enough to go just a little bit before your opposition does. And that's what you're hoping for. But as soon as she feels that she can go again, she's going to give it another push.
Preliminary women's team results as of mile 4. Ethiopia was still in the lead with 9 points, followed by USA with 22. So they're still holding that 1-2 top 2 places by Ethiopia and USA at this point.
Now they're resting. They're just resting and gathering. And they're heading down this slight downhill, and they'll get to the 5-mile point pretty soon. And psychologically, we've talked about this, Alan, that really is the point where if you're going to make a big move, you're going to do it right there, or perhaps when you make that right-hand turn heading south onto Folsom, back to the stadium.
So the other 2 individuals in that lead pack of 3 are Hiwot, Yemer, and Rahim Chota. So they're both, I think they both look really good. So that'll be the question is did Aliphine push a little bit too much, and now they're able to sit behind her and have that benefit of not having to press so much during that 5th mile.
And the men's race is halfway done now. They're 15 minutes into it, so they're more than halfway. They're coming down 19th Street, slight downhill past the 3-mile. And this is very surprising that Gabriel Gay would let Benard Ngeno get so far ahead. But again, we've talked about this before, Alan. Everybody knows who's faster than whom. And Ngeno knows that Gay's at the end has just a little bit more speed. So he's saying, I've got to make sure. I have to make sure I have a lead.
And there's times when they just want to try something different. An athlete knows their competition and says, you know what, last time I raced him, we stayed together the entire race and I wasn't able to pull it off. And so maybe I'll catch him off guard by just pressing right from the beginning. And honestly, up here at this altitude, in this race, we haven't seen that in a long time. So right. It generally will catch people off guard because it's rarely done.
And this is a surge. Aliphine is surging here. She's pushing. You can see the one Ethiopian runner starting to drop back a little bit. And now it's a question of how long can she press? How long can she press it?
It looks like Yemer from Ethiopia is the one right off to her shoulder, the one with the long, much more loping stride. She looks quite relaxed to me, Yemer does, in 2nd place. Aliphine, she looks like this. She looked like that at mile 1, so I wouldn't say she's straining any harder than she was at the beginning. But just by being in the front, she's definitely having to press a little bit more than Yemer is.
But she seems to like the front. She seems to be very relaxed out there, and she's in control when they go around the corners. And if you see how she ran that tangent, she can gain half a meter or something along those lines. And so everything's fine. It's just you keep pressing and then relaxing and pressing and relaxing, and then at a certain point, just go all out. But I think they need to be a little bit further along here.
This is that kind of deceiving stretch along Folsom where you make that turn and you feel like you're almost home, but but you're really not. And it's a longer straightaway than you maybe would like it to be.
Much longer, and you see a banner in the distance. We talked about that this morning. There's this banner in the distance, and you finally get to it, and it says 9 kilometers, and you go, oh, one more kilometer, a bit more than, you know, half a mile still to go. But this is a significant surge here. She's really got, and here we go.
And that's Yemer from Ethiopia, who has decided that she's going to press from home a little bit longer, and we'll see how Aliphine Tuliamuk responds to this move.
And what you have to do here is not try too hard right away to get back, but this, we talked about this thread between athletes, and that thread is getting tighter and tighter and longer, and at a certain point, Aliphine is going to have to bridge that gap. And it seems to me that it's kind of stopped here, and she's not getting any further behind, but now she has to stay there, and there's that 9K. So we have about little more than half a mile to go, which really you can start running all out now, because anything less than about 3 minutes, you can pretty much, from all the track training and anaerobic training you do, you can go all out. So now they're going all out. It's just a question of who can gap whom or who can close the gap.
Correct, correct. Just to give you a quick update on the men's before we have the women's finish. At mile 4, Benard Ngeno was still in the lead with a 4:39 miles, so still running well under 29-minute pace. Josephat Panga from Tanzania in second. Dejenga Gongfa, who is from Ethiopia, was in third place. And Ngeno still looks great. Yeah, I mean, he is not showing any signs of break in form, or the pack, who you can see way off in the distance. They, at this point, are not really trying to catch him. They're just trying to fight for second place.
Yeah, they're running for place now. And I haven't seen him look around. That's what's so impressive about this effort. Let's see if he takes a look around. Nope, doesn't look around. He's feeling good.
It looks like there's a pack of 6 behind them. And back to our women's race. They're going to be entering the stadium in just a couple of minutes. And honestly, it is not broken up as much as we would have thought. That distance can be a little bit deceiving, but Yemer is still holding on. She's one of a dark horse. She's more of a steeplechaser, honestly, and not coming in with the most impressive PRs, but she's going to throw it down today and see how that holds on for a 10K at altitude.
Great finish. And the real key is going to be this last slight uphill to the 6 mile point and up to where you enter the stadium. That's where we're going to find out who goes into the least amount of oxygen debt going up that hill.
Well, as soon as they make their way down that ramp, we want to hear this crowd give them the welcome that they deserve for putting in an unbelievable effort today.
And it's always a mystery. The camera truck has to stop, so we can't really tell who's going to enter the stadium first. It's always a great surprise.
Oh no. That looks like Yemer. We had a bit of a mix-up with our second place there. Looked like she almost made a wrong turn, but let's bring in our winner of this year's 2019 BOLDERBoulder Women's Professional Race. Hiwot Yemer from Ethiopia. That was Meseret Tola in second, and Aliphine Tuliamuk from the United States in third place.
Now it's a question of the team titled Ethiopia's looking very, very good here. Margaret Murray Curry from Kenya
And there's your third Ethiopian
runner.
So that secured the team title right there.
Team title. Now it should be between the U.S. and Kenya.
Ivy Kibet from Kenya.
Kyoko Fukushi from Japan.
Magdalena Sharu from Tanzania.
Second Japanese runner. They're looking good here on the team here.
That's two Japanese in. That's Ando. Here's our second USA runner. Caitlin
Goodman. Surprise. And Shalala Kip.
Former Colorado Buffalo, United States Olympian in the steeplechase. Stephanie Bruce. Good race for Stephanie. We'll get back to the men's race here as soon as we can and bring the men in, get some additional stats on the men. It's been trickier keeping track with Benard pulling away right from the start.
Lauren Masterson, second Tanzanian runner. Natalia Sule. Melissa Dock. Taylor Ward.
Our men have about a half a mile to go. Benard Ngeno on his 5th mile ran 4 minutes and 32 seconds.
Unbelievable.
So he's looking at a very, very strong time today. There's a shot of your leader, Benard Ngeno from Kenya. He's on Folsom. He's a few minutes away from entering the stadium.
And given the fact that it's over 60 degrees, there is a little bit of breeze, and that he ran right from the start and had a 4:20 mile and hung on and was able to hang on this way, he just broke the field. I think mentally they just gave it to him.
I think you're right, and now he's really running for time bonuses, if anything else. These athletes, they get the benefit of individual prize money, team prize money, and there's time bonuses to really incentivize them.
I think he's at least in the 28s here. We haven't gotten exact splits, but this could be the second fastest time ever. Because he's right now running by student housing. He's going to cross Boulder Creek, come up, and I think he's within 2 minutes of the finish, and I have him at 26 minutes right now. This is an amazing performance. And in essence, it's a time trial. It's as if he went to the track with a stopwatch and started it and started running laps.
At 5 miles, there was a pack of 6 men together in that second group. So really, the race is for second place. We could have a great finish for 2nd through 8th.
Yeah, he's going to be, it looks like he may be a little bit over 28 minutes.
That's very, very good running.
Very good running. He's got this slight hill. He's going to go up, make a right-hand turn, and then he's right at 6 miles. And right now, he's at 27 minutes. So he'll run about 70 seconds or better for the last quarter of a mile, which means he's going to run under 28:20.
Well, we're gonna bring him home one more time, and we'll, after this men's finish, then we'll give you the final men's and women's team scores.
Yeah.
He just crossed the 6 mile mark, folks, so just momentarily you're going to see him come down that ramp. This is Benard Ngeno from Kenya.
28 minutes. What a run.
Your 2019 Boulder Elite Men's Champion, Benard Ngeno.
28-23 by my watch. Unbelievable. Absolutely in these conditions.
And here's second place. Terefa, Delesa, it looks like, from Ethiopia.
Also under 29 minutes.
That was Delesa from Ethiopia in second place.
28:52. And another runner under 29 minutes. Perhaps the best finish ever in the boulder.
Gabriel Gay coming in now at fifth. This is our second runner from Tanzania, so right now they're leading the team competition.
In Bahrain, first runner from Bahrain.
Yemer from Bahrain. Dejeni Gonfa from Ethiopia.
First USA. Reed Buchanan from Mammoth, California.
And here's Jared Ward. United States Olympian Jared Ward, well done.
29:48. Bahrain, another runner, and third, Ethiopian. Yital Zerhun. Eritrea. Tanzania. That was Heron Lagat from the U.S., Colorado Springs. Futsum Zainlasi from the U.S.
And just looking here at our women's team competition results, these are not final, but from best we can tell, Ethiopia coming in with 8 points in first place, the United States in second place, Kenya in third place.
Tyler McCandless just finished. Great local runner, a true give-back person to the sport. Jacob Riley from Boulder.
Well, Frank, we had another great race today. We're going to take a few minutes to tally the men's results, but we're about to throw to a special presentation for President Benson. What a great race. What unbelievable.
That performance was one of the best front-running performances I've ever seen in a road race. To go out that fast, 4:20, and be able to hang on and then run as fast as he did, just over 28 minutes. Remember, from altitude, you subtract over a minute to sea level. He ran somewhere around 27:20 to 27:30 at sea level.
Wow, and quickly, right before we close it up, we have the men's final results on the team competition. Ethiopia in first, Tanzania in second, Eritrea in third, an Eastern African dominant race today. Great being with you. Stay tuned for a special presentation for President Benson.